hope you agree with me that the simple things in life are truly the best things. Like this very simple but absolutely delicious Ampesie. Yes, bankye, ne menke Ampesie, and kontomire abomu. That is boiled cassava and cocoyams, served with this dip that is made of cocoyam leaves and other ingredients, along with some salted and dried tilapia, eggs, and of course avocado, just to complete everything. This is an absolute delight, and I hope it makes you want to try this. Come along with me and let's do some cooking. Let's take a quick look at the ingredients we are going to use. I'll mention each and every one of them as I use them, but I want you to take note that I've soaked my Koobi like a whole hour before I even started, so it gives off as much of the salt it has as possible. You want to be able to eat this, so soaking it way ahead of time and rinsing it several times before you boil it helps that. And now we are going to start with our cocoyam leaves. This is actually real kontomire cocoyam leaves that I found in the Asian supermarket, and I'm just taking off the stalk. So as you see, I took one big one off already, and then you try to trim into it like the thickest stalk that goes into like the center of the leaf. You just want to trim it off a little bit, just get a little bit off because it is quite fibrous and not that great in your abomu. So I've washed my leaves. After trimming them, I'm going to start cooking it. So in my pot it goes. I'm going to add one habanero pepper and some turkey berries. This is pre-cooked, partially cooked, so it's okay for me to cook it right now. If it was raw, I would parboil it before I add the kontomire to it. The water I added is just enough to cover the bottom of my pot, and I'm going to start cooking my vegetables. I'll be adding this tomato and momone to my abom. Momone is cured and fermented fish. I'm just going to want to char them, or just roast them a little bit before I put them in the abom. So I'm thinking using a skewer will make it easy for me to maneuver or turn them over the heat. So, and that is exactly what I did. So they are on skewer. I put 2 skewers in the tomato so it doesn't roll because it's heavy. And now I'm just trying to get some char on them before I use them in the abom. You can also achieve this by putting your tomato and momone in a pan and just using the broiler setting of your oven to give the char. If you are using this stovetop method, please make sure your fan is on because we don't want to set off your smoke alarm. So I flipped my kontomire just so it gets to cook since it doesn't have enough water. Gave it another about 2 minutes, and now I'm bringing it off the stove. And we are going to start making our abom. So in my hands right now are some onion leaves. I actually got this from my garden. If you've been watching my garden videos, I have 2 onion plants in my garden. I just let them be. I never harvested them. So I've just been picking the leaves of it and then using it in such traditional meals. You can also use scallions, but this is actual onion leaves, and I'm also going to add some shallots to it. So very traditional. You can use regular onions as well, but this is really how they did it back in the day, Asante Jane. Okay, and now I'm going to add my momone and tomatoes in here. I'm using my food processor. I know control already. I don't like to use my asanka. I always say we do very traditional meals here, very authentic. But of course, if I have an appliance that is going to make my life easier, I'm definitely using it. You can feel free to use your asanka, but I also know not everybody has an asanka. Where we are in our part of the world, it's even very hard to find it. So if you don't have it, you can always use your food processor, okay? It gives it that consistency that is just perfect, like it would have come from the asanka. And that is all you want to achieve. We don't want to slave all day anyway, okay? So I have all my turkey berries and everything here. Now I'm adding just a little bit of the liquid from my ingredients that I cooked, and I'm also going to add my salt right in here. So once this is done blending, my abom is ready. I just have to add my palm oil. I'm going to set this aside and not blend right away anyway, and just start with my cassava. So oh yes, I found cassava in the store. There is always cassava. I know where to find it, but it's very far from my house. That's why you mostly find me using frozen cassava. But I found these beautiful ones, and I got quite a few, and I'm going to make my Ampesie using one of these. Yes, it's hard to peel. It does a little bit different from, even back home. Sometimes the cassava is hard to peel, but you just get your way around it. Since my cassava was so hard to peel, I ended up having it very rough on the outside. So I'm only scraping off some of the rough sides or edges to it so it's smooth and looks clean when it's boiled. You want to cut up your cassava to be about this length when you are making ampesi. You don't want it to be short like how you make it for fufu. I don't know why, but it's always been the case, okay? And yeah, take it from me. That's how it is done. I can't explain. So I'm using mankani, that is cocoyam, and it's pretty easy to find in Asian supermarkets. I actually got this from one called Lily's supermarket, and looking for it in the store, you want to look for malanga lila, that is the name, and that is the one that is very similar to what we have back home. It has the red bottom and everything like I showed you here, and it is perfect. When you are picking it, please look out for one that is, feel around it. Find one that is very dry. You will find some that are soft. Those are the new ones, like new crops. You want to get the old crop, the ones that are dry. You know how we have bayi fofo and bayi dada. The old ones is gonna end up being very dry, like the ones we typically have in Ghana. The newer ones, when you boil it, it's very, very like watery, and you will know the difference. So this is very dry, and I am hoping that when it's done being cooked, it will look very much like the ones we have back home. My cassava and cocoyam have been peeled, washed twice, and now I'm getting them ready to boil. So I'm transferring them here into my pot that already has some water. And you don't want the water to be too much. You just want it to come right beneath your ingredients that you are going to boil. That is how, like Ampesie, whether it's yam or whatever, unless of course you have very dry yam and you want the water to just come a little bit above, but you don't want your ingredients to float in the water. Okay, I've also washed off some 2 eggs and added that in here, and added some salt, and I'm bringing this to a boil. So at this point, we are really in great shape for the shape we are in. See, it's almost done. I have here in this jar some nkwango, that is palm oil that I skimmed off some palm nut soup, and that is very fragrant. It has everything. It's very aromatic already. It has the spice of the ingredients here. It has the fragrance from all the meat. This bankye had adrenaline and everything. It even had some Koobi. So this is very fragrant. So when you skim your palm oil from your soup, you end up with a little bit of the soup in it as well, which is very inevitable. But you cook it down in a pot, a little pot, let it cook all the way down, and then the palm oil forms some crystals that end up becoming dark, it becomes very black, and that's what you saw or dark brown, I should say, on the bottom of my bottle that I had in my hand before I shook it. That is what we call nkwanwase. It's the best part of it. It almost makes it taste like zomi. And on a typical day, this is very well fragrant. It's well cooked already. I wouldn't even bother to fry it again. Just sit the whole bottle in a pot of hot water, and then it melts, and you just pour it over your abomu. But for presentation purpose, I am adding some onions here. I put some shallots in there just to cook up a little bit so it comes on top of my abomu, and that is it. And abomu is done in the food processor. You can of course do that in the asanka like I said, and our oil is perfect at this point. So I've turned off the heat, checking on our Ampesie now. It is halfway cooked, so I have rinsed off my Koobi again with some warm water. You want to try to get as much of the salt out of this fish as possible, and I'm going to put them here to cook. And once the Ampesie is done, the Koobi is going to be cooked as well. Koobi doesn't take too long to cook. It just needs a little bit of moisture, and that is pretty much it. So now that the food processor has done all the work for me, I am going to pretend like I slaved all this while doing it in the asanka. So I'm going to just flip everything here into, or pour it into my apotoyoa or the asanka, just like that. Nobody will be the wiser when you serve them this, okay? It tastes, to me, there's no difference in the taste. I don't even care whatever anybody says. It tastes the same. Well, anyway, Ampesie is cooked. The Koobi is cooked. It smells amazing here. I just can't wait to dig in. So I'm just going to bring this off the range, strain it, and we are almost there, guys. Yes, we are almost here. This is just going to be amazing. So I'm just going to pour my palm oil here, and I'm leaving the shallots on the bottom. I'm going to end up putting them on top when everything is done, just stirring up the palm oil just to make sure that it's not sitting on the edges like it already has. So mix it all in, and your abom, or putoshi egusi as we call it, or your dip. This is a dip. Like, I think I picked this from Nanaba. It is a dip that you're going to use to eat your Ampesie. It's ready. Yes, just look at this. So I'm just going to place my Koobi here very strategically. You know, Koobi is like a garnish, okay? It's not just your protein, okay? And I'm going to add my cassava here and some of my cocoyam. Just look at how beautiful the cassava is. Perfectly soft, almost velvety or buttery, if I can say that. And this taste is just perfect. It has a little bit of sweetness, just like you would want your cassava to be when you use it to make Ampesie. And you know, the cassava here, I always say, tastes so much better when you make your Ampesie. You end up wanting to eat the cassava and leaving everything else. You forget about the yam, you forget about the plantain, maybe not the cocoyam, because how many times you find cocoyam here in this country, okay? But this is so good. I really hope you're able to try it. This is what we would call in Ghana bankye santum. You know, it tastes almost as sweet as a sweet potato, so that's why we call it a santum. And I've just added my oil with the onions here for garnish, and that is it. I've added my avocado. This is just an absolute delight. It hit the spot. Oh my goodness, it was so good. I really hope you are able to try this. I hope this gives you some memories, especially those of us here. I know we don't get to eat this much, and even my mom will see this and will go like, "You're quiet, say hi, you be new. What's America? We know woody." Yes, that is how we have to make it. I always say I miss home for the people, but definitely not for the food, because whatever it is, I'm going to find it and make it. This was just so good. Thanks so much for watching. If this is your first time watching me, my name is Kwanchua. Making simple, replicable meals like this is what truly makes my heart happy. I really hope you subscribe and join the family here. And please like and share this video. Delicious. Missy Menkeno dear. So when you and sell will catch it. That cocoyam was everything. Just look at that. I know you can see. Please try this. I know for sure you will love it. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy. From what she was kitchen, yeah.